All right, Lenore, take away this opening quote here, and hopefully we don't take too much psychic damage.
The West has been infiltrated with a sick philosophy. Like the philosophy of the lion, that philosophy isn't truly held forth as a philosophy. It's more of an impulse. Few scavengers spend time thinking about the roots of their actions. In fact, if they admitted to the true root of their action, ressentiment, they would have to admit that they were driven by the basest motivation.
Ooh.
That is precisely what they will never do. Instead, they must lie, craft entire identities around pretended righteousness. They act adamantly and insistently, and sometimes violently. Ask them their philosophy, and they may spew a few bromidic slogans, but they know deep in their hearts what it is they believe, even if they cannot articulate it. It does not take a philosopher to be a scavenger. It requires only seething hatred of the lion and his ways. The philosophy of the lion, as we've explained, contains three central principles. 1. There is a master plan, a logos behind the universe. 2. You are made in the image of God. You are a creative, choosing being with autonomy and power. The choice of triumph or sin is your own. The choice of knowledge or ignorance is yours. Responsibility is yours. 3. You have true and meaningful moral duties in this world, duties that derive not from your feelings, but from God, from age-old civilizational traditions, and from the dictates of reason. Fulfillment of these duties brings meaning and purpose to life. Failure to fulfill these duties brings misery. The philosophy of the scavenger disdains these principles. Instead, it offers its own competing three central principles. 1. There is no master plan behind the universe. The world is a purposeless place, and all morals and civilizations are merely guises for power. 2. Your failures are a result of one of these corrupt power systems. The world is a great conspiracy, and you are its victim. 3. Violence is the proper response to the great conspiracy against you. If there is no master plan behind the universe, then there can be no independent justification of any system. Power isn't just everything, it's the only thing. If power is the only thing, then your failures aren't your fault. They're the fault of the corrupt system. You were being exploited, and you were a victim. The greater your failure, the greater your oppression. The more you fail, and definitionally are oppressed, the greater the justification for your violence. These principles, when taken in tandem, provide a permission framework for true evil.
Jesus Christ.
I think it should be said that, Lenore, you had some trouble getting through that, and I think that just means you're a good person.
I'm retiring this voice after this episode. Never again. Never fucking again.
But what if he releases the next hit? 2 lions, 2 scavengers.
Oh shit!
Hey,
You know what? The Lions,
We've covered one of his books.
Lions and Scavengers is my least favorite tabletop RPG.
You're now listening to Socialist Shelf Radio.
Welcome back to the Socialist Shelf. We are here with a fan-requested episode, the second fan-requested episode in a row, which just shows how much our fans hate us. Your words have meaning. We do read your emails that start with, "Hey, Lenore," and the other one. Will you cover Lions and Scavengers? Which is, by the way, the Lenore and the other one thing. Someone wrote that email. A mistake for me to say on the podcast that happened, because we've hardly gotten an email that has not started with, "Hey, Lenore," and the other one since I read that on the podcast.
Goodness, my voice isn't that pretty.
Well, apparently, we'll see.
Feels like an old Homestar Runner bit of Lenore, the other one.
The other
I'll
one.
take it. Well, regardless, we are covering Ben Shapiro's Lions and Scavengers. It is a 3-person job. We have 3-time returning to the pod champ AJ Ditty. Welcome back to the pod, AJ of Worst of All Possible Worlds.
Yes, hello. Thank you both for having me. And also, I'm so upset that I had to read this book. I notoriously don't read things. That is my big... That will be on my tombstone. Here lies AJ. He didn't read. And
He read one book, Lions and Scavengers.
And it was Lion Scavengers. And you know what? I'm going to say something pretty controversial. I think that maybe Ben Shapiro is racist.
I would venture to say, I think he would probably, if you caught him on the right day, say he was racist.
Yeah, and that's actually not a bad thing to be. And if you followed the logos of the universe or whatever, you would be racist too. And Ben, I know you're listening, Ben. First of all, get the fuck out of here. This isn't for you. But second of all, if you manage to stick around for a little bit longer, I will go and systemically destroy your argument beat by beat in a way that I think you would perhaps really love. So
It's crazy because Ben Shapiro was like trying to come inside my house, and when you said go away, he was like expelled like into the sky. Yeah, he went flying to the sky. It was kind of
There's
unbelievable.
a like starburst like Team Rocket.
Yeah, or it's like a Super Smash Bros. When a guy disappears in the distance, and just instead of the Smash Bros. Scream, it was wet ass P word. But yeah.
Well, and everybody knows that a proper rebuke from AJ can KO you at like 40% damage.
That is true. Especially if I tear up at the end. Yeah.
Well, AJ, folks, you've been on the pod before, and both of your co-hosts on Worst of All Possible Worlds have. We'll say at the top, if you're not listening to Worst of All Possible Worlds, what are you doing? Pop culture of a dying empire. It's great shit. Obviously, Josh Borman has been on the pod as many times as anyone, aside from, us two and Aisha. So
5. He's got a bust now.
Yes, he does have a bust.
Busting out all over.
He's busting.
Makes him feel good.
Yeah. But AJ, do you want to tell the folks how you ended up on this episode? Because I basically just like put out a call.
Yes.
Signal.
Gondor called for aid, and I responded. It was basically like, who would want to like read something truly heinous? And I was like, I have a hard enough time reading for pleasure. I would love to see what would happen if I had to like read something that I actively disagreed with, because I hadn't done that in a really long time. And also, these kinds of books, these sort of political treatise books, although I don't even think that's what this is, really. Yeah. This is, like all of Ben Shapiro's project, a failed screenplay that no one would produce, that he desperately wants to get made about the time he went with Elon to a concentration camp.
Oh, my God.
And, and we'll certainly get into that. But I believe, Jacob, it was you that responded, that reached out and said, hey, it's Ben Shapiro's new book. If you want to back out, that's cool. And I was like, but I really want that bust. So I think I got to add another tally to my socialist shelf appearances. Yes. And I will do this and join you all in this misery. And it is a miserable read that is also just so enlightening of Ben Shapiro's whole fucking deal, which is that Hollywood did not want him. And he's still so apocalyptically bitter about that he it just took all the racism that was already inside of him and then just like cranked it up to 11.
It really is remarkable, some of the things that he will just come out and say. Like, there is a lot of stuff that he seeks to obfuscate and intellectualize and reframe in ways that people like Ezra Klein can nod credulously at. Right. But there are also times where he will come out and say, yeah, I think Western culture is superior.
Which actually, if you read the New York Times review of this book, they also nodded credulously at.
Did they really?
It was like this is bad, but like also, the dude's got points or whatever. We have to. Ezra Klein had him on his podcast recently, which because I'm a freak, I listened to. Sure. And he was like, look, we got to learn to live together. So there's like people, Ben Shapiro, we have to exist in society with them and meet them where they're at. And it's like, what you have to understand is, read this book. There is no meeting him where he's at. He will continue to pull you closer to like your actual destruction. Like, he thinks you being obliterated is actually good. The end of this book is a call to eviscerate who he refers to as parasites. Like, yes, literally refers to as parasites.
Literally, so using Nazi talking points.
Right.
In a book where he talks a lot about Nazis, but it's just like, actually, they were socialists, because I don't know if you know this, but it was the National Socialist Party of Germany. And I'm like, my guy, words mean things and they change in context. Like, Jesus Christ, your guy in office right now is more Hitler-like than Bernie Sanders.
Yes, Hitler particles just shooting everywhere. Well, Lenore, we've done We did a Ben Shapiro episode already. We did it on his novel. Holy shit, years ago. Um,
Which is
we
not much, which is just a little bit shorter than this book, and yet this book feels thrice as long.
yes.
Yeah. We
So
keep
people can
jumping
go back
around. We're globe hopping in this one.
Oh yeah, we end in the 3 coolest countries in the world. Um, what we've got, so in that one we do a full Ben Shapiro bio. People can get into that, but Lenore, I think you've got some interesting information on what Ben Shapiro has been up to recently. So the whole background, you can go back and listen to our True Allegiance episode, or not. You probably know who Ben Shapiro is if you're listening to this podcast more than you would the average author we talk about, which is pretty depressing. But Lenore, what's this recent information you have? Because you told me don't look anything up about Ben Shapiro today. I've got something that's gonna be really interesting to you. So
Yeah,
I'm on the edge of my seat.
As listeners will be aware, of course, True Allegiance dropped on the 1st of September 2023. Of course, Ben Shapiro's still cooking in the intervening time.
More than 2 years?
Yeah, more than 2 years. Can you believe
Jesus
it?
Christ.
2 years and a whole
Wow.
gender ago. But so yeah, I figured while we don't really need a bio for this guy, we ought to do a quick roundup of what he's been up to, and I'll get the
He's
fun.
been up to.
True, and I'll get the fun one out of the way first. Did you know he has made his musical debut?
I
What?
am aware of that. Yes.
AJ.
I don't.
AJ. In January 2024, Ben Shapiro contributed a verse to the song Facts by MAGA rapper Tom MacDonald,
Oh my god.
who is
It's
Canadian.
It's really good.
Uh-huh, of course.
Let's see. And his verse is as follows. Let's look at the stats. I've got the facts. My money like Lizzo. My pockets are fat. Homie, I'm epic. Don't be a wap. Dog, it's a yarmulke, homie. No cap. Look at the graphs. Look at my charts. You're blowing money on strippers and cars. You're going to prison. I'm on television. Dog, no one knows who you are. Keep hating me on the internet. My comment section all woke Karens. And I make racks off compound interest. Y'all live with your parents. Nikki, take some notes. I just did this for fun. All my people, download this. Let's get a Billboard #1.
It did not, in fact, get a Billboard #1.
No, but it peaked at number 16. But it was briefly #1 on Apple Music. Shapiro.
Those lyrics are basically, look at my charts. Aren't they neat? Like,
Erasing.
but
Look at
it's
my
like,
charts. My charts are amazing.
where is he now? He's over there grazing. I genuinely, him still like harping on the WAP thing is so fascinating to me, and the fact that he spends so much time in this book talking about lechery and how it comes into our culture, and I'm like, man, you've never made another human being orgasm. Don't talk to me about sex. And
It also
bad.
tells me though that like he's a little bit more online, or at least a little more knows how to lean into memes a little more than I mean, we just talked about on the 107 Days episode, right? One of Kamala Harris's staffers suggested, hey, why don't you make a coconut tree your campaign logo? And she shot that down. And if Ben Shapiro had been in her shoes, I feel like Ben Shapiro, Kamala Harris would have done that.
What's Ben Shapiro's logo?
Yeah, he just fell out of a coconut tree, and now we all have to deal with him. Shapiro, by the way, tweeted about this. I just want to thank God, Tom MacDonald, and my parents who paid for 15 years of classical violin lessons so I could become the #1 rapper in America. Tom MacDonald and I have officially made hip-hop great again, as was always my lifelong dream. By the way, this is somebody who said that if you think rap is music, you're stupid.
Yeah, he did say that.
Yeah, I do wonder how much of that is sincere. That particular thing. I mean, that's the thing, is that like the closer you get into Trump's orbit, the more that kind of thinking infects you. You know what I mean? Like I'm surprised he hasn't started spray tanning yet. But I mean, give it some time.
That would be great. If one day Ben Shapiro shows up with a spray tan and like Trump's hair.
He's dyed it blonde.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I mean, someone's got to take over for Trump once Trump kicks the bucket, right? And why not a guy that you actively want to wedgie while looking at him? Like, I feel like he should have been bullied more.
Of course, he is a man of letters, is Shapiro. He's put out a couple more books in this time. There is one that is a collection of his columns from the previous couple of years that dropped in 2024, I believe. Yeah, July 2024. It's only notable to me because of the cover and the title. And I will show you the cover.
Oh, let's see it. Facts and
Facts
How have I
and
missed
Furious?
this? How
Facts
does
and
Ben
Furious.
Shapiro only has 9 reviews on Amazon on this book?
I'm
Like,
shocked.
he's got millions of followers.
Well, and that's
That's
kind
how
of
few people read it.
that's kind of at the heart of what I'm trying to get to the bottom of today is, of course, he's got a big podcast. Of course, he's got a big platform. But how relevant is he really? Because there's a lot
Yeah.
that would suggest to me that he's kind of phoning it in.
I disagree. I think people are not reading his books necessarily. I know for a fact people are listening to him though. His YouTube and stuff like that. I know too many people like in my orbit from, the old days, let's say, who are like reposting him, who are calling him like a paragon of logic. Like this guy is considered smart still by a lot of people.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell that from reading his book, right? That he presents himself as this intellectual and does like all of his paragraphs have like the appearance of data-based findings, but there's nothing there because the man may have read a lot of books, but I don't think he's understood a single one he's ever read, maybe. And that's up to and including, this is my wild fact about Ben Shapiro that I learned for this reading. He doesn't know who the lead of Fiddler on the Roof is.
Excuse me?
He refers... I'm going to read the exact quote because I do want to get this right in case he comes for me with his facts and fucking logic. Okay. Of course, one could describe fulfillment of the third principle as love, as Golda sings in Fiddler on the Roof when asked by her husband, Topol. Topol is the name of the guy who played Tevye in the film. I mean... this is a man who grew up in a entertainment family. His cousin is Mara Wilson, for Christ's sake, and he doesn't know who Tevye is?
Well, and this touches on something that I find mystifying about today's book, though. It is repetitive enough, and it is vague enough, and it is, as you very aptly pointed out, it is incorrect enough that I wonder if AI wasn't used to write at least some of it.
Yeah.
But it's difficult because this is also just how he writes, right?
I'm going to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I've read his older, we haven't covered it and we're not going to, but I read The Right Side of History that came out a few years ago before you would have had access to it. And this book is, I would say, worse, but the style is identical. So I really do think that that's just what he does, is he states a premise and he restates it over and over and over.
Yes.
I'm not saying he's above that, but I am saying like he can do that by himself.
There is such an unrelenting atavistic drumbeat in his prose, right? That continually reinforces, highly simplistic statements in a morass of purportedly justifying quotes. Purportedly.
But it's also stuff like the examples that he gives, and this is not from the book, but it's something along the lines of like, in life, you're going to have many different roles that you play. As Shakespeare once famously said, all the world's a stage, and the men and women merely players. This means that Shakespeare was talking about the many roles that we would play in your life. And it's like, yeah, my guy, we know. like it doesn't make you sound smarter just because you quote Shakespeare. You have to understand what Shakespeare's talking about there, which he doesn't seem to ever dig to that level. And if I can't trust him to know the name of the lead of Fiddler on the Roof, how can I trust anything else he says in the book?
I mean, I'm told on good authority that he is the LeBron James of intellectuals.
Oh my God! Can we
Multiple
talk about
occasions.
that shit?
Yes.
He loves LeBron.
Me too, but not. But I don't compare myself to him.
I would never in a million years assume how many books a person has read. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would never assume that, because LeBron is incredibly successful, and I don't know, probably has a whole library full of books. But Ben's like, I need to feel superior to this guy in some way because I don't like black people.
Right. I will say, like, if you I do quite like LeBron James a lot. If you will look at interviews with him, he's pretty consistently in his bag got a different book every time, which leads me to believe that he is reading different books, including books like Malcolm X's autobiography and things like that, real political, like serious literature. Now, I'm sure Ben Shapiro has thoughts on Malcolm X and would not consider that serious literature. But then again, Ben Shapiro doesn't understand the books he reads. He doesn't or remember or remember the media he's engaging with. Like you said, Fiddler on the Roof. He doesn't understand the point of fences. He doesn't understand. I mean, when he just says things from Shakespeare, he quotes Kurt Vonnegut to be an anti-socialist because he doesn't understand Kurt Vonnegut is making fun of him.
Yeah, I doubt he's. I doubt if he. Okay, no, I think he has read Harrison Bergeron. I doubt he read it very closely.
I also doubt he read Sirens of Titan, which contextualizes Harrison Bergeron. But anyway, I guess we should say what the premise is. Lenore really read it at the top. But it is, I mean, actually, I'm curious. Do one of you want to say what is the premise of Lions and Scavengers? What is the deal here?
So Ben Shapiro doesn't understand how ecosystems work, and
he thinks every animal is a lion.
He thinks that every animal is a lion, and if you're not a lion, you're like a hyena. He calls them scavengers, right? There are lions and there are scavengers. The lions are the bestest boys and all the things that Ben Shapiro likes in the world, and the scavengers are everything he hates, which is mostly people of different cultures. And he makes this argument over the course of 180 pages and then like 20 pages of notes where he just references all of the quotes that he uses, because most of the book isn't actually written by him, is what I noticed. Like, there are so many quotes in this thing that he's just kind of the bread in between them, and he never really elaborates on anything. Like, the points where I would be interested were like, well, interested is a strong word, but like he talks about going to visit this concentration camp with Elon Musk. And then he talks about conversations that they have, but they're very abstract. Like, he doesn't quote anybody. He doesn't like quote anybody in the world that he's in. And I would actually find it more interesting to get an insight into his world that way. But as it stands, basically in between those anecdotes of like appearing in Argentina at a conference or something, he just goes on screeds about how we used to be a proper country when Republicans were in charge, and now we're not anymore because, hold on, I'm just going to check my notes here. Republicans are in charge. So the book does end with like, this whole thing was written over the course of a long period of time. Bullshit. I do not believe that for a second. No. Maybe a couple months of actual writing, but yeah, it's just it's a screed about all the things that he hates under the guise of political theory.
All of the book was written over a long period of time, which is why every personal anecdote took place within 6 months before the publication.
Yes! I'm losing my mind.
I think also as well, like he's kind of hip to the whole like Charlie Kirk thing, right? About how like, oh, you can talk about the image that somebody has, but you make more hay out of that than actually getting into the specifics of what they say. There's a bit I'm thinking of when he's talking about a congressional hearing he's at. Eric Swalwell's grilling him, and he says, "Yeah, I was grilled for my my opinions and my religious beliefs." And he never digs down and unpacks what those are. Presumably something about how he believes Arabs live in sewage. Yes, he.
Oh wait, actually, literally that, because he says, "Do you believe this?" And it was literally a tweet of him saying Arabs prefer to live in sewage and bomb things.
Okay, yeah.
It was just, and he was like, "Do," and he did his Ben Shapiro thing. But in this, he by the way, he did not sound cool in real life when he like stuttered about it. But in this book, you would have him be like, "I put on a pair of sunglasses," and I was like, "Of course I believe it. It's what I said."
Won't get fooled again, blared over the PA system as an explosion happened behind me. Yeah.
This is a guy Piers Morgan made cry one time. I mean, like, come on. Like, actually, I hate to ever hand it to Piers Morgan, but look, Google that interview and,
Yeah, he gets one shelf point against 5 million negative.
Yes, one shelf point, which is a metric that we've recently been fleshing out. We don't know what it means.
This is one way to reclaim, I think, Harry Potter, is just to dole out points.
Yes,
based on podcasts.
Arbitrary, and they get more and more inflationary as we go along.
No.
So the book starts, and what we're not going to do, listeners, is go just completely like page by page, chapter by chapter. There's not a plot to this book. The structure is very repetitive, as we stated. But I do want to show how this book opens. Because first of all, it opens with like just like a dog shit poem, I guess. I don't know. He says, "Attention lies at the core of our being. It roils us. It churns our guts. Okay, it boils our brains. That tension lies between two opposing forces. Those forces beat within every man's breast. They fight for supremacy within every civilization. One must triumph and one must fall. The spirit of the lion, the spirit of the scavenger."
Inside your two lions.
Yeah, this is. I don't remember the Avatar: Last Airbender opening being this bad.
I mean, here's the thing. That man right there, he made rap great again.
That's
So-
true. That's a good point. And then he says, "I write these words in London, England. I write them in disappointment and horror and dismay, for London has been conquered by scavengers." And he goes on to basically describe large protests in favor of Palestine against, the British government, in this case, role in selling weapons and giving diplomatic cover to Israel. Want to note, just a few days ago, from the time of this recording, it was found, which we knew the whole time, despite Britain denying, that the British government had been doing surveillance for Israel, flying drones over Gaza, helping them with that the entire time.
I'm
And
shocked.
we know that because they just canceled the program. They said, okay, stop doing it. And they wanted to say that was a win. It's like, wait, you said you weren't doing that. But so he wants to act like, oh, these people, these horrible scavengers, these people who are, here to destroy and pillage and everything like that, complaining about nothing. And he goes, I don't have to, I don't have to tell you the rhetoric he uses. He does the whole queers for Gaza, they throw you off a building shit. And
He does it twice, back-to-back
twice in a paragraph.
sentences. Yeah.
Yeah, he also talks about how the British Communist Party never condemned Hamas. And then if you Google the British Communist Party, on their front page, they say, "We condemn the actions of Hamas."
Yeah, it's like it's not tough. And it's like it doesn't matter what you say. That's a great example right at the front of like what I said at the top. There is no making these people like you, no matter what you say. They will just say you said something you didn't say, or say, I mean, hell, once again, not to get too like current events, but I watched last night I don't know why I watched a mayoral debate for a city I don't live in, but I watched the debate, and you have just Andrew Cuomo over and over saying Zoran said things he did not say, making just false claims.
Why will he not condemn Hassan?
Yeah, he asked him to condemn Hassan Piker
Twice.
Was he confused? Was he asking? Did he want to ask, "Do you condemn Hamas?" And he
No.
just kept going, "Do you condemn Hassan?"
No. It was specifically his comments about 9/11. It was about Hassan's comments about 9/11.
I am shocked that Andrew Cuomo knows who Hassan Piker is.
I don't think he does. I think he was given that by an aide to attack him, but I don't think he's listened to him at any point in his life.
I will say that debate did make me like y'all's Republican candidate about 10% more. I hate to say it.
Well, at least he feels like a real guy, Silwa. Like you've definitely seen that guy in a bar at some point. You don't want to hang out with him,
No.
but Cuomo just doesn't feel human anymore. Like he feels like a ghoul in a way that's
saying I want more parades was one of the funniest.
Yes.
Anyway, I apologize, but I just don't want to talk about this book. But Ben does
Why?
not like parades. Unlike Soa, who says there should be as many parades as we can possibly have. Ben is very anti-parade in this book.
Oh, incredibly. He calls them an army. He compares them to the orcs in Lord of the Rings, for Christ's sake.
And I mean, it's just you get right from the top this just horrible thing. I mean, by page 2, you immediately have in Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien wrote the hordes of Mordor stand in for the Nazis and their allies by way of metaphor, gathering on the plains outside the gates of Minas Tirith, the last redoubt of mankind. And then he quotes a significant paragraph of Lord of the Rings,
which he didn't need to. He's made his point already.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he says, "So it goes today in London. The marchers march, paragraph break. The numbers increase, paragraph break. And the scavengers cast their avaricious, ravenous eyes across the landscape, ... and see no one to oppose them." And it's like, God.
Yeah, this is the failed screenwriter at play. Those are screen directions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so clear he wants to make this epic, but it does come across to me like a lot of the evangelical like movies that we watch, right? It's just like, yeah, everyone thinks this way, right? And I'm telling it in the most epic way I can, and you read it and it's just, it's so dumb. Like it's not even like interesting bad. It's just like I would expect this kind of like writing from a 7th grader, right? I think somebody said recently that we're currently being ruled over by 12-year-olds. And
Yes.
this feels like the most 12-year-old ass worldview one could possibly have. It's backed by a lot of quotes from other people who can write, unlike Ben Shapiro, but it's still the mindset of a prepubescent child.
I'll say this. When I was like 11 or 12, I wrote a book, and that is in heavy, heavy quotations, that word book. But, you do artistic projects as a child.
Yeah, of course.
And at the end of the book, which was basically just like a mix of Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, I would realize later, but with Christian values.
Of course.
Of course. Because Tolkien wasn't transparent enough in his Christianity. You have the guys all lose, and then Helm's Deep style, a guy appears. And I think I literally say in it, I would have to go and check, but like a lion, he roared. The heroes had come. And I'm like, yeah, that was like cool as shit when I was 11. You know what I mean?
Yeah, lions are cool.
Yeah. And if there was an actual lion in this book, which they don't feature any actual lions, I was hoping he would at least get into, like, here's what lions do in the wild. No, we didn't get any of that. None of that. Because then he'd realize, well, women were the warriors in the pack, and he wouldn't like that very much.
Yeah, no, but they serve a very different role, you see. They must be the support for the bigger lions.
The bigger lions who, in actual nature don't do the hunting.
No, and I just started I made a list of throughout the book of things that lions are and things that scavengers are. And here's what I've got. I've got lions are hunters, warriors, and weavers are the 3 main points.
Imagine a lion weaving.
You have to be very careful with the claws. It gets caught in there.
See, this is a TTRPG. You can pick your class and everything.
Yeah. That is, yeah. Oh man, can you imagine Ben Shapiro playing Final Fantasy VII? Anyway,
God.
Yeah, he'd be like, Shinra were wrongly accused of terrorism.
It is a united coalitional hatred of the corporate powers of Gaia.
Ben Shapiro rising up, a single wing coming out of his.
We need to have a serious conversation about the appeal of Avalanche among Generation Z.
Shapiro Roth. Lions are creative. They're audacious. They're innovative. They're bold. They're persistent. They're unafraid of failure. They're prudent, merciful, and strong. And they also contain the spirit of scavengers, but don't worry about that. Don't worry, that there are rules that keep them in line, right? And lions famously love rules. And hold on, I'm just going to quote from 100 pages later in the book. You know who also really loved rules? Adolf Hitler. And this is a bad thing because he liked bad rules, but lions, they like good rules. And here's something that scavengers are. Scavengers are looters. They're true. Lecherous. They're barbarians. They're envious. They're frustrated. They're alienated. They're vengeful. They're rebellious, perverse, leering.
Tag yourself. I'm perverse.
I'm leering. Oh, I'm always leering. You can call me Dennis the way I'm leering.
I stay looting at all times. God, he does love to give these lists, and actually whole chapters get built around these lists sometimes.
Yeah, and I was never really able to parse a difference between like hunters and warriors. He just kind of throws that out there. They're quite similar.
Yeah. I mean, one provides and the other protects, I think is probably the closest thing I got. But again, it's all mush because it's all just code for things that he likes. And one of those things is appealing to the moral code of the hunter-gatherer. Like Ben Shapiro thinks a lot about the Roman Empire as there's an entire chapter on the Roman Empire. And I'm like, I can't believe how many stereotypes you fall into of a conservative like thinker, right? Yes. You think you're like you see things the way they are, but really you're just confining yourself into this box that you've built with yourself and your other Daily Wire creators, right? They've built an iron bubble around themselves.
He has a book, The Right Side of History, where he literally claims, the city of Athens invented the concept of art. So this is the kind of guy that we are talking about.
Excuse me,
Here.
my great ancestor did not slave away on that cave painting of horses for you to discount all of that work. Werner Herzog is going to come and like tie him to a chair and make him watch Cave of Forgotten Dreams on loop for 4 days until he learns him something about cave painting.
Well, the thing, so to talk about lions for a little bit, because that is what Ben sees himself as. He says that, currently, because the lions are not going outside, innocents, he says, fear to go out at night, predators do not, which I do like to imagine like Ben on the streets, like a vigilante.
I am the knight. I am
got the
Batman.
Maybe he's got that katana.
Ben discusses here, like you said, in Rome. He says, I was chilling in Rome with Jordan Peterson. Just like, oh my God, nightmare scenario.
He had dinner in Jerusalem like 3 days ago with Jordan Peterson. Maybe the last person to see that man alive. We'll see.
It's possible.
Oh my God.
And he says, and that's where he gets into like, oh, lions, we believe in logos, purpose behind the universe. We believe we're made in the image of God. We have true and meaningful moral duties to the world. And so then he's like, well, who are we going to contrast this with? Who were lions who stopped becoming lions? Well, he's got some citations. One, he says Britain. Britain was a lion for a long, long time, which I suppose in a literal sense Britain is because of the whole symbol thing, which he like doesn't really allude to. But he says that they were, but they stopped becoming a lion because they became a welfare state. That is the actual argument that is made in this book.
Right.
Something that we're not going to see Ben do ever when he's talking about lions and scavengers is the idea of someone coming with strength and taking, right, to build their civilization, as I think we can all inarguably say Britain did. I think Ben would, if you even pushed him, admit, like, where do you think those artifacts in their museum came from? That is not being a scavenger to do that in Ben's worldview. And I'm not like, he doesn't even, like, I was waiting for the time he played even lip service to it. Like, to be sure, there's no to be sure at any point. When he talks about lions, he refers to Thomas Jefferson as a lion. And then he quotes Thomas Jefferson saying some human beings are superior to others. And he says, oh, he was talking about meritocracy. No, Thomas Jefferson was not talking about meritocracy when he said that.
Sure wasn't.
That's not being a scavenger in Ben's worldview. It's being a literal slaver, right? It is not being a scavenger in Ben's worldview to, I don't know, your job be to be Ben Shapiro, which like, for most of human history, the idea of like, you sit on a couch and you talk into a microphone and that's everything you do with your entire life and you write books in 5 seconds. People would be like, cool, that sounds awesome. Where do I sign up? Like, no hate, you know what I mean? But they wouldn't be like, wow, what a lion, what a warrior, what a hero or whatever. It's like, nor do you need to be. Like, dude, you won. You got like a life of the mind job. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
But you're not fucking Superman for that.
But I mean, I think one of the biggest tragedies, quote unquote, because he does deserve it. Although I guess a lot of people in tragedies kind of deserve what's coming to them. But he views himself as a lion, but no other lion in his group would view him that way.
No.
Right? Or will ever accept him as a lion because they're all racist too against Jewish people.
Oh, yeah.
Which Ben is. So I don't know. It's like, why would you make their case for them? It's money. The answer is money. And also because he's convinced himself that he is right and that there is no alternative to his version of reality. When his version of reality would not last in the wild at all. Like, lions need the scavengers and scavengers need the lions in order to survive. They would die otherwise. And I don't understand how you build an entire book around a concept that is so easily disprovable.
It's what happens when you construct a philosophy to naturalize the fortune that you've had, your place in the world, you being the mouthpiece of your patrons, as opposed to explaining what the world is, A, and how to change it, B. Which of course he dismisses as like scavenger philosophy. He has this phrase resigned determinism for what he calls like, Marxism, historical materialism, class analysis, right? Incidentally, I recognize that term. He and Ezra Klein both like it, right? If you recall Ezra Klein's interview with Ta-Nehisi Coates, right? Klein uses that resigned determinism like phrase to dismiss Coates's like legitimate grasp of the history of mass struggle in this country, right? Human
Right.
rights were only expanded beyond landowning white men as a result of periods of contention, right? Klein doesn't believe in that. Ben Shapiro doesn't believe in that, and if Ben Shapiro does believe that, he believes it was bad that human rights were expanded.
Right.
It's a glib way of dismissing, as vibes, all opposition to you, when this book is wall to wall vibes.
Yeah.
Except he does have one fact that I like that he cites, which is when he puts a citation down for the fact that the U.S. Capitol exists. I'm not kidding. He's got that in his notes. Is when he describes the Capitol, then he just has footnote 1, and it's just the Capitol like website that there is a U.S. Capitol building.
Why does he cite the website of the architect of the Capitol when he talks about the apotheosis of Washington? He's not making an argument. He is stating common knowledge. There is no contrary citation or scholarship that renders this remotely a matter of contention. Go to the Capitol. Look up. There's your fucking citation.
But he doesn't cite when he just says
That's
stuff
the
like,
catharsis of Washington.
yeah, when he just will say like, oh, women are better at this or men are better. Like he'll just throw things out like that. Like he will not cite like very clear things that need citation. He will make very broad claims.
No, this is
you know.
such JD Vance shit. I mean, recall Hillbillyology, right? He has like 20, 21, maybe 22 citations in that book. Most of them are done in like the prologue and chapter 1, and then there's like 2 in the rest of the book. He just fucking
forgot.
That's right. Yeah.
He just fucking gives up. At least Shapiro bears it out all the way through when he's citing like fucking like Return of the King for some reason.
He feels he's getting good boy points.
I mean, here's the thing. There's no room to actually add those citations about women are better than men, or men are better than women, I should say. When you have to include your 9th Rudyard Kipling quote.
Good point.
Very normal guy, Rudyard Kipling.
No, if you stripped all the quotes out of this would be a pamphlet.
I mean, like, I'm just thinking of the random quotes that end up in here. I think my favorite of all of them is Fences, where it makes the argument that Troy was good, actually.
Oh my God. How do you I know why Ben read it, because he loves the N-word, but, like, I don't understand, like, how you can leave Fences and be like, yeah, that moral lion Troy was just completely beat down by this world, and it was so nice that his family came around in the end. When Troy, throughout that play, for people who don't know August Wilson's Fences, it is one of the greatest plays ever written. It is an American masterpiece by one of the greatest playwrights of all time. And in it, this character Troy, played by James Earl Jones, I think when James Earl Jones died, that clip of him doing the speech that Shapiro quotes in this book made its rounds on social media. And it's basically the son's like, "Do you like me, Dad?" And he's like you? Why do I have to like you? I put food on your table every day, didn't I? I love you. I don't have to like you. Mm-hmm. And Ben's like, "Oh, look at that. That is an upstanding father right there, who has cheated on his wife and has a child out of wedlock that now his wife has to raise." And she says to him, I will take in your child, but you've lost your wife. And then he dies at the end of the play, and his son doesn't want to come back for his funeral. And it shows that, like, this adherence to this lion philosophy will actually destroy you, because the systems that have been put in place that Troy has had to endure all of his life have hardened him to the point that he has lost so much of his humanity. Mm-hmm. That's the point of Fences, Ben!
I never thought I could see a take on Fences worse than the take of an entire audience I sat with when I saw it once, when that scene was delivered very well and people kept laughing when he was saying the, like, I don't got to like you. that scene. People
Oh,
thought it was
no.
funny, even though
Oh
the actors were not
no.
delivering it in an amusing way. And I remember reading, I mean, I was like, like the actors like got halfway through that scene and they seemed like they did not want to keep doing it because people kept laughing. And I was like, they through no fault of their own. And I was like, man, that must be the worst take I've ever seen on Fences, is that scene was funny. But no, turns out there's someone even stupider in the world than the people I was sitting in that theater with that night.
Yeah, it's pretty offensive.
God.
I would love to see his take on Gem of the Ocean, August Wilson's first play in his Pittsburgh dectology, where he'd just be like, I don't know, there was a boat at one point. Like, I cannot conceive of this guy sitting down to a night of theater and fully understanding what's happening, including the name of the main character of Fiddler on the Roof.
You know, something with Ben too is you talked about, you know, he's okay with the way this man talks to his son, but Ben roasts his own kid in this book. Ben describes his child because he's saying there's the potential to be a scavenger on everyone. He says, 2 years ago, my wife and I had our fourth child. He was, as all children are, a squalling, ravenously hungry little creature. Children at birth aren't truly cute yet, as any visitor to a new mother will tell you. They're too vulnerable and scrawny to be adorable. They're red and they spend most of the day sleeping, nursing, or pooping. They are not inherently good. That assertion to inherent goodness, propagated mainly by those who have never met a child, is a total lie. And it's like, you know, there's a way of writing, I'm having like a difficulty like attaching to my child, you know, whatever. I don't want to say that that's not a thing that can happen, or I haven't had the feeling before that a child is annoying. But holy shit, like this is the kind of family values he's talking about, like this actual like kind of loathing towards his own, this anger, this idea that he has to just make it happen at every turn, and then he feels like he's holding the world on his shoulders, but also like it's also he's holding the world on his shoulders by like running Daily Wire. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
it's
Dobson shit, right? You know, it's this idea that
like you're great at Dobson shit.
Yeah. Slobson, I don't know. It's this idea that your kid is this potential. I mean, it's a potential scavenger scenario, right? And you have to like whip him into shape. You have to. I believe he says at one point, like you have to make your kids grow up to be lions.
Yeah, no, he says children must be civilized. They must become lions.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine saying that about your child. Yeah. Like, I cannot. He describes his child as a creature, which is also just like, it's like he's been given clay and is molding it into the form of a person when the child is already a person. It is a human being, for God's sake, Ben. I don't know. I worry about what happens when one of those kids falls short of his ideals. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't. I hope they find their own way. I do hope so, but it sounds like they're being raised in an environment where they simply cannot and simply will never be able to, because this guy is never changing his mind, right? There is no convincing Ben Shapiro that he's wrong about something.
That's right. And let me transition here into the other side of it, Scavengers.
Yes.
As a concept. And
the good guys.
Yeah, the heroes. Some of the people are heroes that he calls scavengers, some are not, because he likes to lump in just a lot of people together. He thinks by saying, hey, the Nazis are like this and these people are like this, and that's not really similar to each other, but I just called them both scavengers, that we're going to think that, you know, people he doesn't like are Nazis.
Right.
And he really has, I mean, it is one of the most cynical things I've ever seen in my entire life, which is Ben Shapiro and Elon Musk together visiting Auschwitz.
Can I just say that sounds like the most miserable day somebody could ever imagine?
I cannot even imagine having to be like an aide on that trip and just having to like stand behind them, because you know that I feel like Ben does seem to have like an experience here, right?
Yeah.
Like he does seem to go through this process of mourning. And have either of y'all been to a concentration camp before?
I've not.
No.
It is so difficult to describe it, but it is, you set your feet on the ground and you feel the death there.
Yeah.
Like it radiates. There's some sort of energy that enters you and you just feel the loss of it, right? And it seems that Ben is affected. You cannot tell me that Elon Musk felt one iota of a thing standing on that
Nothing.
concentration campground.
Nothing.
Like, I will not believe you.
This story is pre him throwing the salute at the fucking, inauguration. You know what I mean? Like Elon Musk went to the concentration camp in like 2023 or 2024.
I'd imagine Elon was walking around like being like, I could have like really made this work better. Like he's looking for like optimization options for the
Yeah, he's on his
concentration camp.
phone or something like that, if
Yeah.
anything. And yeah, I want to say like I absolutely, that was one thing I wanted to note. I hate to say credit where it's due to Ben Shapiro, but he clearly does have feelings about this, and he has every right to have feelings about it, both as a human being, as a Jewish man, as someone who lost family in the Holocaust. And it's like that is it's incomprehensibly evil, as you were saying, what happened. And he's sitting here and he says, and then you have I have a chance to speak with Elon. He says, he's by nature an optimist, a person who believes the best about human beings.
Well, certainly.
And he seems stunned. He tells me it was incredibly moving and deeply sad and tragic that humans could do this to other humans. Is the entirety of everything Elon Musk takes away from this is the quote that he says. I'm not even convinced Ben didn't even write that. Just like but if he did, that is like Elon was like, "Hey, Grok, what do I say?" Like that is
Right.
That is the extent of that. And then he immediately goes into how could have such a thing happen? And then he says he's like, what happened? Is it the nature of nationalism? Is it opposition to communism? Well, the answer is far simpler. Nazism and its murderous barbarism were a reflection of the impulses of the scavenger. And then he immediately goes into saying that the Germans fell into a belief that they had been sold out to Marxists and Jewish people, which is true. That is what the German people fell into, that great lie. And Ben then proceeds to say, not Jewish people, but he proceeds to say, in our society, we are now falling prey to Marxists. And, he doesn't say a specific ethnic group, but like Muslims catch a lot of strays. So I imagine that's the one that would fill in that there. He makes the same arguments. In fact, so much of what he says about scavengers that I really think reads just like, I've read the like Nazi propaganda, the shit they would write in their schools. Like I've studied this stuff. When I was writing my book, I wanted some of the speeches to like from evil characters, especially in the sequel, to have some of that like flair to it. Sure. Reading it reads exactly like this, except they use the word Jew or Marxist instead of scavenger. And right. It's identical. In fact, at one point he quotes Hitler saying, Hitler said this, he blamed the Marxists and the communists and the Jews. And I'm not kidding, within a page and a half, Ben is now talking about how it's all Marx's fault. And it's like,
yeah,
I don't get it. It does not compute. Like, what is he, who is this for?
It's for lions. It's for the Daily Wire audience. It's for people who need to feel aggrieved and not say that they're aggrieved, but they're right. And it's everyone else, who's wrong. These people who are marching on the streets are just ungrateful for how cool and awesome we are because Ben Shapiro got rejected, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he has been posturing ever since as a big intellectual when all he really wanted to do was to make movies and to make narrative TV shows, right? That was like the dream that he held. And then we see what happens when the Daily Wire tries to do any of that, right? When it tries to follow through on an ambition. And it's terrible because you
get
can't.
Fucking lady ballers.
Yeah.
Run, hide, fight.
Yeah, it's either going to be incredibly dumb or incredibly racist, transphobic, all that stuff, but also just boring. It's all so boring because when you're coming at a position of I'm the coolest person alive, everyone should worship me, you can't tell a good story because that's not what people glom onto. People don't want to worship really when they go to see movies. They want to see somebody go through something. They want to see somebody change. And lions can't change. They cannot change or they're not lions anymore, right? Then they're not the coolest person in the room.
Well, they can change. They can change into scavengers if they're not careful.
Oh, that's right. That's right. They can get worse.
But he does make the argument that the only reason scavengers ever defeat lions, as we're saying, the only reason the scavengers ever win is because the lions choose to lose, because the lions feel bad and they don't take action. Basically, Ben sees every conflict in human history as like the obligatory episode of every superhero show where the superhero retires and says, I'm done. Or like a movie, if you're unlucky, And you spend like half the plot of the superhero not using superpowers because he's retired and it's too dangerous or some shit.
Sure.
Ben thinks that's like all of human conflict because the Lions would win so easy if they need to. He doesn't seem to reckon with the fact that one, like when there is true evil, when true evil expresses itself, when you have Nazism, who he identifies as scavengers, thank God that he's not pro-Nazi, though I'm sure plenty of his readers are.
Right.
It takes actually great sacrifice to destroy that shit, right? It actually isn't like, oh wow, when the Lions get out their claws, it's just so easy. It's tens of millions of people that like it is a genuine battle. Like he is not even able to frame this in like he sees every battle as like the bad guys are the orcs and he is the riders of Rohan. And if he just shows up over the hill, he can ride over the orcs and it'll be awesome and cool. And it's over. And it's just the fact that they're too good at people that they can't. But he's identifying what I would argue as the majority of living humans as among the orcs, the scavengers, the parasites.
Yeah.
And he just goes on a whole tear about how he says straight up, some cultures are inferior to other cultures. He says that's objectively true. He cites multiple examples very poorly. And then he says discriminating is not inherently bad. We use the term discriminating for someone with good taste sometimes. And it's just like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah. Words mean things, Ben.
I fucking despise that simplistic, like, contextless cadence that, like, so many conservatives argue with. Like, of course we're not talking about, like, discriminating taste. It's a word with two different meanings, Ben.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same shit, and I think he makes this very argument in here. Like, I can't help but be reminded of, like, conservatives will also argue against, like, abortion, for example. They'll come back at you with, you'll argue for bodily autonomy, and they'll come back at you with, well, like, I don't have autonomy over my body because I have to use my body to work and provide for my family. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Like,
also, like, if you want to take that in a Marxist direction, there's like an argument to be, but like, that's not what they ever mean. You know what I mean?
Well, exactly. Yeah.
He quotes Marx a lot in this book, and every time I read, I'm like, my man's spitting bars.
Yeah.
I've never read Marx, but goddamn.
Well, that's the thing, AJ. Like, it's whenever he's talking about like the philosophy of the scavengers, right? He lays it out in what would almost be convincing fashion if he weren't like explicitly arguing against it. Like he'll say that he'll say facetiously, of course, there are these systems of oppression that you're born into, and there's a legacy that is weighing you down if you haven't been able to build generational wealth. And you're reading this, and you just imagine him saying it in an extremely mocking tone because you're nodding your head until the point where he says, "Yeah, and that's all bullshit, and here's why."
Yeah, it's not even here's why sometimes. Sometimes it's just he'll finish quoting Marx and then be like, "Nuh-uh," and then move on to the next point immediately.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Well, and literally, like it's so there is just so much of the essentialism about this. And it really does come across in the way he talks about like how lions fail, right? How they can't fail, they can only be failed by like perfidious like people who weren't lions after all, right? It's
Right.
very much like, especially as regards the Nazis, right? It's very much how like Wehrmacht like stands described the Second World War. It wasn't that like the Blitzkrieg strategy was defeated by like Soviet defense in depth, right? It was just like, okay, Hitler's responsible for everything, and if it weren't for him, right? That's how they can get away with like pretending to be anti-Nazi.
He makes the argument in this book that like lions use freedom and they give authority to people to act. And he cites the Blitzkrieg of Nazi Germany as an example of when they were letting people have authority. And then he says when they centralized authority, it stopped working. Part of that is also it stopped working because like half the world was fighting them at that point.
Right.
But also like my argument is not, obviously like the command structure. And of course, I'm not trying to insinuate that Ben is being pro-Nazi, but I'm saying his arguments are so insane that he will even sometimes like hand it to the literal Nazis. Or at one point, he's talking about Nietzsche, and he says, oh, well, he said the Jewish people loved all that was ugly. And he goes, and that's of course not true. That's not what Jews believe. But that is true about the left. And it's like, why would you pull that quote? Why would you pull the literal quote about Jewish people, say that? And I know that's not what Ben means because he is Jewish. That's the only reason I think he's not dog whistling that, is that he's like, why would you pull that and say that's not true about that, but it is true about this? Like, why can't he realize I guess on an interpersonal level, it's impossible to appeal to this man. But like, why can't you realize just as a human that it's like these people you're associating with do not see you as one of them, and they never will. Like,
Right.
fuck. I mean, the day this came out, just a couple days ago, the young Republicans, but it's a very misleading term. It's like very important people that are in like their 30s. Group
Right.
chats just leaked, and just hundreds and hundreds of messages of people saying, "I love Hitler. We should gas Jewish people." All of this stuff is, among other things, in that chat. Like the people that he claims to be the Lions are very much like not. It should be apparent on his side. And that's a thing that I just keep coming back to as well, because it's like very frustrating to me that he's trying to draw this comparison. And I like, God, I don't want to feel like any human connection with Ben Shapiro, but it's almost like, dude, like, just think for your, like, think of, I don't know. Seems
it is a circle that is impossible to square because he has to. Well, he is a square. He's a massive square, and I wish I could turn him into a parallelogram. But he
Gotta push him over. He's only got that one wing.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. But that's the thing. He has to have that. He has to have that patina of like anti-Nazi-ness, right? He has to have a response for people who are like, okay, well, what about Elon Musk? What about Jeff Bezos? This or that, like Lion by his logic, who is doing bad things, exploiting people. He has to have the response of, well, if you do a bad thing as a capitalist, as somebody who has clearly earned your wealth and not had it handed to you at any point, of course, in his eyes, well, those people are just fake lions. They can become scavengers if they shirk their duties to society. Because he goes back and forth on whether or not we're like communal creatures or not.
Yeah, it's just goo at a certain point, right?
It is goo, yes, and it's a goo that he can't form into something coherent, because he would have to ask the next question, which is, okay, so why do you support a paradigm whereby these people can keep being incentivized and given every advantage in the world to accumulate this power and become these false lions that you describe?
Yeah.
So one thing that he keeps returning to, and I think it's maybe the thing that is, he obviously the social conservatism side of it is very important to him, but a thing he hammers in this more than he even has in previous works, because it's really what he wants to get home, is this free market capitalism, is the idea of free markets versus controlled markets.
Ben loves private property. Holy shit. He
really
loves
does.
owning a home.
He says private property and the moon landing like in the same sentence as like human achievements. Like, okay.
Yeah.
He does not understand markets very well for a guy who whatever.
Here's the thing. I am fully I also know very little about markets. Econ was my worst class in high school, because I just kept asking, well, if it's all made up, then can't you just like change the rules anytime you want? And they went, no. And then it turns out we had a pandemic where we lost $1 trillion in like 3 seconds. And then all of a sudden that $1 trillion was back. And it was like, oh, so none of this means anything. Okay.
Back in different hands.
Yeah. I'm with Ben. I also do not understand markets. So any of the finer points you will both have to explain to me.
Well,
what he's gotten wrong here.
The one definitive thing I can tell you about markets is that you can build them starting in the feudal age for 175 wood.
That's a good point. In Battle for Middle-earth too, you're going to want to get that very early, because you're going to be able to trade resources between each other. You're going to get that mithril. You're going to be able to deploy those dwarven units.
No. But wait, that's the game filled with all those scavengers.
Yes, unfortunately, which you can't play as. Fix that, whoever made Battle for Middle-earth 20 years ago. Game that you can't get on Steam. Someone do something about this. I think it's interesting, him getting into markets. He does make some arguments here that are at least contendable with in an interesting way. So that is something that I wanted to take on its face. He makes the argument, basically, that cost is determined by what everybody wants. And because cost can change based on need, supply and demand, etc.,
sure,
that is the best way of setting cost. And that if you set cost externally from the top, that is going to lead to problems. Now, what he is doing sort of fallaciously is this idea that it is all costs in some market are going to be automatically set by like a single person up at the top, which has never been the case for any, even the most like centralized economy in human history. It still has markets. That's not what socialism is not having markets. But he's making like some very strange arguments that people like to make. Like he's engaging with the hardest parts of what we would say. Something like, oh, a teacher is drastically underpaid. A thing that we can
God, the
all
fucking
agree
teacher
on.
shit breaks my brain.
But he says the left suggests that teachers are underpaid by some standard, that they have been evaluated for merit by the markets and found wanting. This is eminently untrue. The markets for teachers has been severely restricted by regulatory influence and union cronyism. In a true free market, the best teachers would be paid many times what the worst are paid. Only the corruption of the oligarchic teachers' unions and their well-funded elected officials prevents a truer market that might reward the best and most innovative teachers in line with their actual economic value. And now I know those people that are listening to a show called The Socialist Shelf are losing their minds just hearing that. But that is an argument that, if presented on something like Fox News, might sound semi-reasonable if you said it really fast. So this is the kind of thing that we have to be able to respond to. It's like, first of all, we can engage with the most absurd part, oligarchic teachers union. Who's the oligarch, right? But the idea that interfering, right? The idea that interfering in the market in that way to try to get wages up, suppress wages, is something that he says multiple times. Unions are the reason that cities don't have jobs anymore, is an argument he makes. Things like that. And it is, I mean, it's, email me and I can show you the stats.
But also unions used to be good, because he makes that argument about the place he went to in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, Kensington Street or something like that. And where he's just like, in the 50s, after FDR did the New Deal, all of a sudden there were all these jobs here in the 50s. So unions used to be good when Republicans ran them. But then at some point,
too much money.
They asked for too much money, and that's when the Democrats got in.
Well, and I'll tell you something else about unions. If we can return to teachers, the NEA report that the article he cites summarizes says that teachers earn 24% more on average in states with collective bargaining. He conveniently leaves that out, right? He also says that, like, okay, the average teacher salary nationwide during the 2023 to 2024 school year is $71,699, right? This is from the third sentence of that article that I mentioned. The previous sentence says teacher salaries are growing faster than at any previous point since the Great Recession, but with inflation factored in, teachers still take home less on average than they did a decade ago, according to the nation's largest teachers union. They make about 5% less than they did 10 years ago. And there's all sorts of other factors he doesn't factor in, of course. They make 76.5 cents on the dollar compared with college graduates in other fields. 40% of pre-K through 12 teachers hold more than one job. 95% spend their own money to meet students' needs. And what does he do? He goes on to compare the salaries of teachers to the number of teachers to the number of NBA players, and he multiplies personnel by average salary and tries to claim that we spend more on teachers than on NBA players in the aggregate, as if that means anything. I don't have to explain how dumb this is, right? Right?
No, Lenore, he's best friends with LeBron James, though.
Oh, he wouldn't keep bringing him up if he weren't. Yeah, you're right.
I would like LeBron James to like make Ben into a basketball like they do in that one scene in Space Jam to Michael Jordan and slam dunk him.
Everybody get up. It's time to bend now.
Yes, it's time to bend. Another argument he makes about free markets that is true, actually, is that free markets lead to innovation, and that free markets, that capitalism unleash production. He makes the argument that a guy like Mansa Musa, who is proportionally the richest person in human history, did not have cell phones. That's true, I suppose. What Ben is missing, and this is probably because as well read as he claims to be, he has clearly not read Marx, is that, here, let me make sure I have the quote directly. He says, IQ of mankind has risen over time, but there's no reason to think Aristotle would have felt out of place at MIT if he'd been educated, but nothing happened for thousands of years. Well, nothing happened is crazy, but you know what I mean. Then something wonderful happened. Free markets emerged after centuries of gradual evolution and broadening of property rights, and mankind was unshackled from the chains of economic tyranny. Free markets do one thing better than any other system in human history. They incentivize innovation. You know what's crazy if Ben had even started Das Kapital, he would understand that that is like the first 5 chapters of Das Kapital, as Marx saying, we had a feudal system which was inefficient. Capitalism arose out of it, not because people were evil and greedy, but because that is a better way of running an economy than having the most inbred people in the world run your country, which is what feudalism is. Literally having like kings who, I'm not kidding, were the most inbred people in the world run their country. Marx said that's a better way of doing it. He says, and then once that has happened for a while, it's going to become redundant. You're going to start making stuff you don't need. And then that's the point where we need to put some kind of brakes on the thing. Marx makes that argument. That's what dialectical materialism is. Like, that's the historical materialism. He's literally saying that. Like, you can go and just like, I mean, if Ben had read a Wikipedia summary of Marx's most famous book, he would know this, right?
You can't have that on his search history, or he's not getting a job in the cabinet. Oh,
That's
I'm
true.
sorry. I'm looking here. He does not have a job in the cabinet. Oh no.
Got him.
Yet.
Even though you know what? He got an invite to the inauguration. He didn't take it because he wanted to cover it for his show, but he definitely was invited.
He was right next to Donald Trump. They were going to have him, you know, the way this is, I'll just say it. So you know how like at the Biden inauguration, we had like Amanda Gorman. So Ben was going to be the Amanda Gorman.
Well, here's the thing. It's very handy to have Ben around, right? Because his one giant wing really blocks, keeps the sun out of your eyes, right? It's a nice little...
Trump famously likes staring at the sun. So Ben's like, no, look down.
Trump does kind of look like the president of Shinra, doesn't he? The first president of Shinra. He does kind of have that energy about him, doesn't he?
He does. Mako energy. So that is the thing that like when Ben is making these arguments, like you can occasionally come across something that sounds intelligent because like, Ben is pulling from a lot of stuff. It is true. Capitalism made a lot of things, but look at the world as we have it now. Now we have too much stuff. We have depressions sometimes, economic depressions, such as the Great Depression, because there was so much stuff. Stuff doesn't matter cost-wise anymore. So we have to destroy stuff to make stuff cost a good value. That was the argument Marx was making, that at a certain point, we're going to do this too much and then it's going to be out of control. I think that we've all objectively hit that limit. And now we can think about, okay, what else can we do with this thing? Now, Ben even acknowledges that capitalism can get out of control because the tendency of those who become successful. It's often easier to rig the system in your own favor than to continue to play by the rules. It's why major business leaders cultivate political favor. It's why they engage lobbyists to quietly rewrite the rules of the game, and why they seek political power directly, thus enshrining their own domination. The way Ben would suggest to stop this from happening is, he doesn't. He has no suggestions.
No, because he wants it, I think. Like, I think secretly, I think he really does want it. I think a lot about how he talks in this book so often about like just let billionaires be billionaires, right?
Yes.
Let them rule, and we will all benefit because they're innovators, right? Lions are innovators and will bring us into the next step in the future. But like, all that they've done so far is blow up rockets and like unravel the very fabric of this country. And all the things he argues against in the book itself is being perpetrated by the people he would call lions. So what does that make him, right? What does that make him and his friends? Ultimately?
AJ, Elon Musk sleeps on his office floor. Don't you know it?
That is true, but that's because he keeps getting divorced.
Yes. Also, I like, he's like, of course Elon Musk deserves this. He sleeps on his office floor. And I'm like, are you sure that he didn't pass out from what we all know he's doing all the time? Also, like, if you look at, look at people have leaked his Steam account. He's spending a whole lot of hours.
The strongest lion leaps out of the deepest K-hole. No, it's just so specious that these things that he's saying here. I'm looking right like
lions and scavengers. The two species.
Well, that's actually a question I have. He refers to Muslims as Islamists a couple of times in the book, and is there a difference between those, or is he just being his usual racist self?
Yeah, that's just the scary word for Muslim, basically.
Okay, cool.
There is Islamist, and then that's an adjective to other things: Islamist Marxism or Islamist environmentalism or Islamist.
Islamo-Bolshevism, they like to say these days.
Lord God Almighty, I
he
pray.
uses an example of like how society is failing because his friends get mugged after they have dinner with him in Los Angeles. And there's a point where he says, they were black, the people that robbed them. I didn't have to say their race, but because it's an open investigation, I'm including it. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's going to help me find it.
Yeah,
my
what?
dude?
Yeah, what description? What did you give?
I mean, Ben's argument would be that's why we need to stop every single black man on the street and investigate him. Is probably what Ben would. Because if I said, "Oh, so we should stop every black person," Ben would probably like shrug.
Well, I
you
mean,
know what
Ben, that's more or less what Ben's saying. You know, he says,
Yes.
what is his word about what does he say about Britain? Oh yeah, Britain turned inward in shame and exhaustion, he says, and that's why they fell. Okay, so should they have just holocausted all their colonies? Like, I mean, there is, he says without saying, although he does say it in at various points, that yeah, lions should just be willing to enact hideous violence onto people in the name of protecting their paradigm. I mean, you pointed out to me just the other day, Jacob. He says that like the Geneva Conventions are being used to scavenger ends. Like,
yes, he calls the Geneva Conventions a scavenger scam.
Yeah, like we
You know what I mean?
like we the lions are being constrained by the scavengers, you know, to not drop white phosphorus on children. Like,
yeah. He also talks about how the genocide in Gaza is like one of the most tactically refined endeavors in human history. Like, it's just like it was specifically done to keep casualties at a minimum, and I'm just like, my guy. My fucking guy.
I mean, there's two arguments you can make there. One, you can say he's a liar. Two, if that's the best they could possibly do, then they can't be trusted with weapons. Like, oh, we were trying not to blow stuff up. Okay, well, regardless, you shouldn't give a toddler a machine gun then, if that's your actual argument. You know what I mean? But of course, that's not what they do. And of course, Ben knows better, because he at a certain point says, when he's describing Israel, the lion took its claws out. And that's what he really means. And that's what he really wants. And when he refers to, hideous crimes that have been done in human history, when he's talking about the lion nations, when he talks about Britain, he's not engaging with the fact that Britain was doing, Victorian Holocausts, which is the name of a book, Victorian Holocausts, on people in Africa and on people in India. Like, he does not engage with that. He has a whole section here where he says Americans tried to build American-style architecture in Afghanistan, and it didn't take because their culture was inferior. He's not talking about the fact that like Afghanistan had to free itself from British imperialism. And then that Afghanistan did start to actually in the 60s and 70s take off under a socialist government, a scavenger government, did start to like educate women at massive rates, did start to, have like the basic necessities. And the United States created the Taliban about it. So like, you know what I mean? Like, I
hate when I create a Taliban about it.
Literally, Blowback season 4. I hate when I create a Taliban. Is what I
mean, what he's doing here is arrogating the right to do violence and to engage in self-defense to a very specific, very white subset of the human population. I mean, very early on, he's got this counter-terror unit commando chief dude from the IDF. Counter-terror and the IDF, first of all, oxymoron. He's talking about like that guy, and he's like, Western civilization is filled with people like this, people who stand when asked to defend their families and their country, who take all the adversity life can throw at them and keep coming, who ask not what the world can do for them, but what they must do for the world. And I'm sorry, do you know who else stood when asked to defend their family and country? Layla Khalid, George Habash, Marwan Barghouti, Yahya Sinwar. Like, you don't have
people, like, people are standing up and fighting. You don't like how they're fighting. Like, that is yeah. I also think it's like, I mean, in it can to no end how cynical those elements of it are and how racist he is. It's hard. I mean, we can state it all day, but I also think it's interesting. I don't know how worth it is to say it, but I will say it. I think he also takes this tack that is so strange, where he is actually using this language that is not appealing. I don't even know that it's necessarily appealing to like people in Israel. It's like appealing to Christians, right? It is designed to appeal to like Western Christians, right? Because he's describing Israel as literally like Richard Lionheart is a comparison he made. He says, fighting off Islamic invasions in the Holy Land. Well, that is not what the Crusades were. Everybody fucking knows that. Also, Richard Lionheart killed a hell of a lot of Jewish people too when he went to the Middle East. Anybody who looked different than him, he killed, which either Ben doesn't know because he's not smart, or he does know and he's cynical. And he's also describing Israel as like basically describing Israel as Europe in the Middle East, right? Which is he's appealing to these like Deus Vult people is what he's doing this entire time. So that's that section of it as well. So when there are parts where it's like, well, that's not even how like people are making the arguments themselves, right? It's because he's not appealing. He is now just directly talking to like the Pete Hegseths of the world who get infidel tattooed on their arm in Arabic, even though that's what an Arabic or an Arab Christian would call you as well, because it's just a word in Arabic.
I think it's so fascinating that you say that, Jacob, because it does feel like this book was written explicitly with Christians in mind, in the way that he goes about describing Jewish customs specifically, but like even just going after the talking points and using points of reference from Christianity more so than he does using a more Jewish text from the Bible. Like he does talk about Adam and Eve. Obviously, he talks about the snake and how the scavengers are the snake. But actually, it was good that they ate the apple because they were lions. And so they were able to have ingenuity outside the garden. So really what the scavenger did by making them eat the apple was a good thing, really, though. So like, again, every argument he makes immediately falls apart because it doesn't make any sense. I can't emphasize enough how much reading this book is just being like, well, you just said something the opposite of what you just said 3 sentences ago, and I feel like I want to peel the skin off my body.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about, I mean, Kamala Harris's book last week opened with that epigraph, like, it takes a lot more energy to refute bullshit than to espouse it. And like this book is that par excellence. Like all throughout, you see the classic fascist frame. He is an ideological fascist, has been. The classic fascist framing of like, we are the supermen, we are smarter and stronger and wiser and more resilient and more caring about our families and our loved ones than any of the scavengers could be. But we're also constantly under attack. We are also constantly underfunded. We constantly need your money for this book. Most egregiously,
we need you to like and subscribe to the Daily Wire.
Yes, like, comment, and subscribe, or the West will fall.
Yes.
And most egregiously, of course, is what he's talking about the IDF, where he says that, Israel's forced to do more with less. Oh, less, like the $250 billion that we've given Israel over the past several decades, subsidizing their entire army and society. Like, it's ludicrous.
It's a scrappy underdog story, right? They have to be the underdogs at all times.
Yes.
Because that makes their war valorous.
Right. And it's the framing is not, I want it. The framing has not been having an actual, I don't know how to say this because this isn't even a conservative opinion, but like, it's not been like thinking about tradition in like some kind of beautiful sense of some idea of like
tradition.
Well, he wasn't paying attention during that part or any part of Fiddler on the Roof.
That's true. He's not thinking about like, Jewish people have lived in the Middle East for thousands of years and that's beautiful and I have a connection to this land, because that is all true and nobody who knows anything is denying that. That nobody who knows anything is denying that like Judaism came from the region. He doesn't talk about that. He doesn't talk about roots. He doesn't talk about, I want to build something. I want to build something like connect with the people of this region and together, build a multi-faith democracy or something. Like he's not interested in that because he's not even interested as much as he wants to talk about religion in the religion itself. He's interested in the imposition of a system on others. And in this case, he's talking about the imposition of, Israel on the region, but he talks about it here because he wants Donald Trump to do that here. He wants to follow those similar tactics. He wants the lion to take its claws out, as he describes. And he specifically he specifically says the things that are done in Gaza are the kind of things that need to be done to defeat scavengers. He cites the blowing up the pagers, things that killed children. He cites, mass bombing and assassination campaigns, hunger campaigns, things like that. He is saying that is the kind of thing you need to do. And what is the kind of stuff we need to fight? Well, the kind of stuff we need to fight. Let me make sure I get this right.
Yes.
Well, I'm saying Bugs Bunny wore drag precisely because it was absurd and transgressing social norms was worthy of laughter. So I guess drag queens.
Yeah. Did you also know that drag used to be a word that was a punchline? I guess like it was like it's like, oh man, that was such a drag. It's another thing of him just being like, did you know words mean two things? And I'm like, yeah, Ben, I know words mean two things in different contexts. You moron.
Yeah, Ben, I liked when Ben was like, okay, you might think drag is cool, but if you just add a couple letters, it's dragon. Hopefully you're not, that's not cool now because the dragon's the ultimate scavenger because he's taking the gold and
he's hoarding it. He's hoarding it all to himself.
His name is Smaug. We have to go on a quest.
I saw that British man crawling around on all fours in that green suit, and we have to put a stop to it.
He's a burglar. I'll have no rhymes, no dwarves.
Going back to your point too. Obviously, but we have to talk about the whole drag section. But like the fact that like building something with the community in the Middle East, right? And this idea of like Israel building this beautiful community. Ben couldn't even build a community with the people he was around in Los Angeles. He moved
he had to leave.
He moved to fucking Florida. Right?
Yeah, the best place to live.
And he left because everyone got super into keeping themselves safe from COVID-19. Mm-hmm. That's why he had to go where there were less masks. He's just a very bad guy. And that carries through to his opinions on drag performers who, it's all the same conservative talking points. It's about, indoctrinating our children. And I think conservatives use indoctrination to mean when my child thinks something that's different than what I think and I don't like it.
Precisely. Yeah, no, like I follow Lady Emily on Blue Sky, and she made the very apt point. This is regarding Keira Knightley's very mealy mouthed like I think we should just be able to get along statement. When she apparently just learned that J.K. Rowling is a transphobe, she did not just learn that. She's either very, very, very ignorant or, lying. But like the point that Lady Emily was making was it's crazy to say, oh, we should all just be able to get along. Oh, we should just live with people with different opinions, as if we trans people are going around like pushing things in people's faces. As if that's happening and not the other way around, right? And not people like Ben Shapiro, people like J.K. Rowling, conservatives in general. They're the ones spouting anti-trans, anti-drag, anti-queer hate 24/7. Mm-hmm. Like the whole thing of Drag Queen Story Hour, the whole thing of trans pride, LGBT pride in general is, look, we exist. We are trying to live our lives and love in, just the same way that anybody else would live their lives. And it's astonishing to me. I mean, just look what Ben says about drag. Here we go. Why drag? Because drag is by nature violative. It is destructive of gender, of tradition, of community. Violation is the essence of drag, which is precisely why drag used to be an edgy punchline. Violating norms in a society that respects norms is inherently funny. He skips a bit here. As the Drag Queen Story Hour organization argues, such events are necessary in order to allow kids to see people who defy rigid gender restrictions and imagine a world where everyone can be their authentic selves. This is the language of pure lechery. Your authentic self lies in your subjective sense of what you are. Society must be reconstructed to cheer it. And it's like, no, motherfucker, society must be reconstructed not to persecute us.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And they view any sort of recognition as cheering it, right? As the pure existence as cheering it. And it's like, I don't know what their just leave people alone. Like that's my whole thing. It's just like, what, how I would never presume to walk down the street and insert myself into somebody else's life in that way, who seems to be living like their full life in the way that they want, right? But it's like it comes from this place of just thinking you know better than everyone else, and this book is just so condescending to everything he clearly does not understand, and like, you can be condescending to me, but you better know more than me, motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, he is, and he is able to make this argument because one thing he's doing constantly is making these arguments by association, right? Lions are lions, scavengers are scavengers. So
Right.
he is really quickly pivoting between, concepts. He's really quickly like, yeah, you remember when Al Qaeda did this, and also there were gay people, and also the Nazis, and also Karl Marx, right? He'll do that in like a space of 2 pages. One thing he does with the drag section specifically is he does this very specific, like few pages apart. So the actions the Bolsheviks took during the Russian Civil War, isn't that kind of similar to like Drag Queen Story Hour? Like that's like what he's doing. Like, but which, like, when you talk at length about the Russian Civil War, like when, like he was like, oh, they hanged a lot of people. Like, yeah, they also hanged a lot of people that were trying to do mass pogroms of Jewish people, which, like, theoretically I would hope Ben would support fighting those people, but maybe not.
Well, you know where he could have learned about pogrom? Fiddler on the Roof.
He could have, if he had watched it. He could have. He would have then known that sometimes you have to fight those people, which Ben is afraid of, except when it's not. But he is able to take that, obviously framed in the worst possible light without any context, say, hey, Lenin ordered people hanged, and also there are people in a gay chorus and drag queens, and Bugs Bunny gets cited for some reason. That is the level of like intellect that we are dealing with here. This is, I used to call Ben Shapiro a stupid guy's idea of a smart guy, but I don't even know that he is that anymore when you actually engage with his work. Like, I don't think many people in the world, if they sat here and read this and they weren't just like nodding along, like, jacking themselves off because that's why they got the book, like, right, they're actually engaging with it, would find this convincing. Like, I really don't think that. Maybe I'm giving people too much credit, but I just genuinely don't.
Well, I mean, because his sources don't add up, right? Like, even if you were to like engage with it in any sort of good faith, the sources don't work, right? His arguments don't work because he can't cite a source to save his fucking life. Yes.
Well, he cites people like Douglas Murray and what the fuck is that other Victor Davis Hanson, people with columns in race science journals like the National Review,
But at least we're here for like his wit. Right, his cutthroat wit. Let's hear him how he describes Bernie Sanders, shall we? A putrescent Marxist pimple on the posterior of the body politic.
I wish Bernie was a Marxist. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Also, alliteration, Ben. Look, I get it. I get the impulse, but it doesn't work. It doesn't make you sound smarter, my guy. It just... It all it does is get spit all over my microphone when I have to say it. I think he also like really goes after AOC in a way that feels creepy.
Yeah, creepy and gendered.
Yeah, everyone else, like he has a lot of vitriol for Bernie Sanders, obviously, but every time AOC is introduced, it's with idiotic or with the idiot AOC in a way that makes me think, man. This feels very, as you said, this feels very.
This is a guy that on Twitter has multiple times like tried to get her to debate him. So like, this is there are memes about it for a reason. Like, he is a weird reply guy to AOC on Twitter and has been for years.
I mean, he's probably attracted to her. That is my read on the situation, is that there was some girl in high school who would not give him the time of day that happened to look a lot, perhaps like AOC, and he's just like, I will finally prove to young Ben that I can debate her into liking me or something.
Ben, if that's not true, come on the pod and explain.
Ben, please. Thank you for making it this far, you absolute ass.
Yes. So you talk about citing sources. As I'm like kind of coming towards the end of this book, he cites 3 sources of things that we can feel good about.
Great.
There are 3 countries in the world that are good.
Mm-hmm.
I know y'all were worried. You said, okay, well, Afghanistan's bad. Algeria's bad.
Yeah.
I've been informed that the UK is bad. Where's good? I mean, everyone is turning left to right. Where
wait,
are the
wait, wait.
lions?
Let me guess. Eswatini, the Maldives, and Bhutan.
So you're so close. You're so close.
Some of
That
those
would be
letters
hilarious.
are in the countries.
Imagine if it was those three. It's just like, I don't know.
Equatorial Guinea. Holy shit. Good pull, Ben.
Ben loves Guam, and he's like, and I will never acknowledge the United States scavenger hold over it. The like that one bit from Veep where the guy keeps saying 49 states. He's like, what? And he was like, Hawaii will never be a state of the United States. It belongs to the Queen, which is like, technically the Queen of Hawaii, which is true.
I'll be deep in the cold, hard ground before I recognize Missouri.
Exactly right. Here's an exclusive. I don't know if I've told anyone this. A book that I am currently working on features a fascist American flag in a post-apocalyptic scenario with 49 stars because they say Rhode Island is woke. And they just hate Roger Williams.
Okay, do you know the official like full legal name of Rhode Island?
No.
State of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. You don't get more non-woke than that.
No,
Yeah,
that's
come
not.
on.
Well, that's what they in the book they say Roger Williams was woke. Take it up with me, I guess.
Got it.
Got like 20 pages written, so it's hardly a book.
It's more of a book than this shit.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. It has a couple good jokes in it, and gay sex.
Did you not hear that Bernie is a pimple?
That's true. I've been rolling over that all week. But yeah,
1%
there are
of
three
all
good
people-
countries. No, do it.
No, it's
You
dumb.
got this. 99% of pimples. There are three good countries. We've already talked about one of them extensively. It's Israel. We to know what he's talking about Israel. He thinks it's good to kill people, obviously, and also people like him when he goes there. He gets a lot of people who hear him when he speaks. You'll note if you look at his Twitter account when a lot of people come to hear him speak in a country, that country is like got good politics for a while. That's a thing he does. Last time he spoke in the UK, fucking nobody came. So I think there's maybe a little bit of that.
I see.
going on
London
there,
has
too.
fallen because my ticket sales
Yes, have as well.
in the earth.
So I don't know how much more there is to say about Israel, except he said the lion has unsheathed its claws. But we have two more. We have the great nation of Argentina under
Beautiful
Javier
country.
Milei. You know what just got approved for Argentina? A $40 billion bailout from the United States because their economy is in the tanker. Because Javier Milei is a libertarian as an adult, which is not
No,
a thing
12
that
years
you should-
old.
Yes. People might not know this. Do you know Javier Milei has a dog that he has cloned multiple times?
I'm going to say, is the dog dead?
The dog that he has cloned multiple times, that he claims he and the dog were a gladiator and a lion in a past life, and they refused to fight each other, and they bonded. And he has now multiple times cloned that dog and also posted AI art of that dog as a lion, like standing like a fursona alongside him and his sister. And he makes his sister have weirdly big boobs in the AI art. Did y'all know this about the president of Argentina?
I did not know this, and now I hate that I do.
Well, that's the guy that's the one cool guy in the entire world.
I have to imagine that like every clone is like a clone of a clone, and the dog just keeps getting like weirder and weirder and weirder with every iteration.
It's honestly sad if that is true, and it's a lion that failed to slay this guy so long ago, and now he's paying for his sins by being reincarnated as this dude's fucking dog. No, Javier Milei is I mean, like one of the worst presidents in the world right now. He is a guy who this is so odious to me. Like I have very, very little nationalism in me, but there is something in me that flares when I see Javier Milei come out on stage with Elon Musk at CPAC and cut up a thing that says regulations, cut up a thing that says government spending, make jokes about a guy from another country, make jokes about cutting America's Social Security and Medicaid on a stage, then going back to his country in less than a year later, getting bailed out by me for the tune of $40 billion.
Yeah.
If there is any nationalism in you, even the tiniest bit of like just respect for the ground you stand on or the taxes you pay, how can you believe anyone is America first in a country like, the Margaret Thatcher should have said the problem with libertarianism is eventually you run out of other people's bailouts to spend, other than the fucking thing with socialism. Like that is what they're doing over there. They have the worst inflation in the world in Argentina right now. So that's the cool country, I guess.
Well, I mean, Trump is currently, I think, making it so in case things go south, he has a place to flee to, perhaps.
Argentina, famously so.
I mean, very famously. But I think there's also like another thing too is that like now that they're like withholding our federal tax dollars from us, from like liberal states, quote unquote, like I can't. I do imagine a very weird world where Argentina becomes like the 51st state. Like, like we're just like, well, we bailed you out, so we own you now.
I mean,
right?
Milei was talking a big game about making the American dollar the national currency.
Of course he would, because they don't. Their currency is such runaway inflation. You can't spend the Argentinian dollar anymore.
And our dollar will never inflate.
No, of course
it's
not.
Doing great right now.
It can always eat another bite.
I honestly could talk all day about Argentina being run by Reddit, which is essentially what Milei's government has been. Do you know that the limited public spending they do, because he cut all the pensions for all the government employees, the pensions they worked for their whole life. He says, you actually don't get those. Do you know what he did with the money?
No.
He spent it on Bitcoin.
Can go. That is.
I'm not kidding.
That is so horrible for the people of Argentina. But
if anyone in the world, if any head of state, if you had to have me guess which head of state will be like dragged out by a mob and drawn and quartered, Javier Milei would be at the top of my list.
It's very high. He the other day, once he got the $40 billion, he did a concert where he played music for the people. He's like, he would be cool if he was a character in a TV show. But like, so that's one of the guys. Not to harp on Argentina, but Ben does. That's one of the cool countries.
Yes.
So like, there's 3 ways you can be cool. One way you can be cool is be like Israel and kill a lot of Arabs. The other way you can be cool is be like Javier Milei and whatever he's doing down there. Right. And the third way you can be cool is be Donald Trump.
Yes.
Yeah, and pledge that the United States, from the day of your inauguration, will be a free, sovereign, and independent nation, because...
Thank God we haven't been free or sovereign
It took us 249 years, but we're finally an independent nation.
We did it.
We won't be until he has the UFC fight on the White House lawn.
Yes, and then it will be official. Yes.
Is he doing that?
Yeah.
That's July next year, right?
Yeah, 250th birthday celebration.
Yeah, he's also going to be on the currency now. We live in a democracy, and
you can only be on currency if you're dead.
Well, not anymore, because apparently there are no rules. There are no laws. It's just whatever he thinks up in his AI cooked brain.
It's all made up.
Trump has been talking a lot about heaven recently. I don't know if y'all.
He has, and he says he's not going, which is fascinating.
He's not getting in.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I was talking with my co-host Brian about this the other day, and there is sort of a danger, I think, in hoping, in like thinking that he's going to die soon. I think that the most likely scenario is that he'll just keep having strokes, and they'll trot him out and put him on every drug imaginable to make him seem somewhat like coherent. But I think he'll at least make it through his term, and if not longer than that, when he goes into term 3.
If you don't believe that, look up a video of Ronald Reagan in 1988, watch him talk, and then realize what year Ronald Reagan died.
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan was full on Alzheimer's by the end of his term, and you can keep a human body alive.
Yeah. Especially when you need that human body to enact any of your policies, because everyone else that you surround yourself with is so odious to the American public that they would never be voted in on their own merits. I would argue, including Ben Shapiro in that.
Well, he's a lion, though.
He is a lion. He is. He's a very good boy.
And let me read what we have here at the end, because Donald Trump has been described as a lion, and I suppose his hair is maybe lion mane colored. I could give him that.
Yes.
Americans have changed. The 2024 election was a sign that a new day is indeed dawning. The lions are awake again. It is sometimes difficult to find solutions to long-standing intractable problems. By the way, as I'm reading this, imagine this playing over like scenes of like America and like wars and shit, because that's definitely what's in Ben's head.
Sure. The soundtrack to Independence Day, perhaps.
Definitely. Prescriptions fail to do justice to the magnitude of those problems, fail to specify in enough detail or nuance just what must be done. That is not so in the battle between the lions and scavengers, for lions to win requires no great scheme, no clever machinations. It requires just one thing: courage. It requires the lion to roar. When the pride stands, the pack falls away. When the lion stands, the scavenger flees. I'm going to skip a little bit, and at the very end, every single sentence I read here has a line break to make it its own paragraph. The scavengers will never surrender. The battle will go on for the rest of time, but they cannot win unless we let them. When I began writing this book, the scavengers had the upper hand. The lions were weary. They lay in the dust, weary and wounded. Sorry, he said weary twice. The scavengers circled, sniffing blood. Now the lion stands again. All the lions awaken. He was standing asleep before.
Mhm.
The pride is returning, and the scavengers should tremble. And guys, I won't lie.
Mhm.
I was pretty scared. I
trembled.
When he said that, I trembled. Lenore, did you tremble?
With rage, yes.
Yeah. And that's how he ends the book.
Yeah. He talks a lot about crime in this book.
That's true.
And I think really the thing we should be investigating is how many the deaths of all of his editors, because the amount that it must have taken to edit this book and how many of them killed themselves along the way.
Well, so many of his friends are getting robbed in Los Angeles. Yeah. Everyone he ever becomes friends with gets robbed instantly. So you don't want to become friends with them.
The most unbelievable part of that story is that Ben Shapiro has friends. I'm also really fond of this quote. Now that we're sort of, I think, nearing the end, I would just like to. I took this down. I think it's really important that I share it. He says, "My sadness? What do I have to be sad about? I am the chosen one. I have been chosen to be the leader of this planet." Oh no, I'm sorry. That is Sephiroth. That is actually Sephiroth. My apologies. I was playing this along with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and apparently my notes have been comically mixed up.
No, but you do have the right of it. Like, this is just his perspective, right? That this bit here, I think, really crystallizes this whole thing. There's a really obnoxious bit most of the way through the book. No, it's just 82 pages in. God, this feels so much longer than it is.
And it could appear anywhere else. That's the other thing. It's like you could rearrange everything in this book, and it would make no difference whatsoever.
It's so not cohesive.
I was just reading some Ted Chiang short stories, and he has the story of your life, and the aliens they write in singular blocks where everything is one. Any sentence can be in any way because they don't think time linearly. And presumably Ben Shapiro is from the planet. Good short story. That's also what Arrival is based on.
Mm-hmm. Oh shit!
Yeah, well, if they made a movie of this book, not even a score by Johan Johansson can save it.
Imagine. Yes, Ben
Scavengers are trembling.
He's wearing his lion persona.
No, but like
my claws are out.
He has all this nonsense that he talks about. There are subterranean rivers, passions that flow within the human heart, right? And he talks about how, like, yeah, if you're civilized, right, those passions can be channeled productively. And he's like, pride becomes ambition. Ambition spurs us to achievement. Lust becomes love. Monogamy builds the family. Wrath becomes righteous indignation. That righteous indignation spurs us to honorable action. And, we've already said quite a lot about what sort of honorable action Ben arrogates to himself and his ilk, right?
Right.
And he sums this up like, only one small trick is required in order to transmute sin into virtue. Membership in a victim group. Such as lions under constant siege from scavengers, which is the lie that he has to sell his fans, which is the lie that he has to sell, the American conservative movement broadly, that we can live in the wealthiest country in the world that derives untold riches from global exploitation that acts with impunity and arrogance and blows up who it likes all over the world. And yet somehow we are teetering on the brink of total collapse. That this is all in service of maintaining some fragile and beautiful status quo, which is what exactly? The ability to go to the supermarket and look at 16 different flavors of ketchup? Like,
Yeah.
Lenore, you make a great point, but also Sheila was in rare form while you were saying that. She was like pawing at you from behind. She
She was
cares
like,
nothing for your monologues.
I want the ketchups, mother. I want the ketchups. But it's also a lie that he has to sell himself too, right?
yes.
This is something he has to get up in the mirror and look at himself. I know this is he goes after other members of the right in this group, in this book, which I thought was interesting. Like
Yeah,
he does
Tucker
not
Carlson.
he does not care for Tucker Carlson at all, and we're seeing a lot of that infighting sort of coming more to the foray the more the Trump presidency goes along, because certain groups are getting what they want and certain people are not. But I did think about that Stephen Miller anecdote that his wife was talking about, how he would wake up every morning and give her like pep talks to like start the day or whatever, that were just like these
We're
like
gonna crush the left in the morning when he gets out of bed.
yeah, he's just monologuing from the moment he gets out of bed. And I'd imagine that Ben is very similar in that way, when he's not yelling at his kids to be like lions, right? Like he's a very sad figure to me, because he is someone who does not recognize that he will never be accepted by his peers in the way that he wants, and he thinks that he is. And he says in the book that he's part of this group chat, right, with all these some of the most famous people in the world, some of those the big billionaires, right? Wanted to like apologize to Kamala Harris and like give more to charities or whatever. He's like, and that's where you're wrong. You have to like bear your claws or whatever. But there are so many group chats that Ben Shapiro is not a part of and not aware of, where they are saying the worst, most heinous shit you could ever imagine about him. And
Yes.
these are people that he considers his friends. And to live a life like that, I think, is ultimately so hollow and so empty that it makes you write a book as incoherent and awful as this one, just to justify your entire existence.
Yeah. Well, do you know what does justify what does justify its existence?
Yeah.
Worst of All Possible Worlds. It's a good show. That hell of a segue there. I guess we gotta go from one thing to another thing. If you're listening to this, you most likely know Worst of All Possible Worlds. You've at the very least heard episode with one of the members of the pod on it. But if for some great reason you may have fallen off the train, or you may have heard one of the hosts talk, but whatever, give us the pitch, AJ. Why should you listen to Worst of All Possible Worlds?
Worst of All Possible Worlds. It's a really lovely show. We do weekly case studies in the pop culture of a dying empire, and the way I like to pitch the show to people mostly is like, if you like a thing in pop culture, we have probably done something adjacent to it. We do movies, we do TV shows, we do music, we do plays, we do musicals, we do and we do an evangelical Christian radio drama in our ongoing series What's on the Summer. And the other thing I like to pitch is that we don't have ads, which is great. And instead I write an interstitial every single week for the topic that we're covering. And sometimes they're serialized because my brain is broken. And I think it's a really fun show. And I think a lot of people come at it thinking that it's going to be a very negative time. And I think the thing I am most proud of is that we always posit why this is the worst of all possible worlds that we're currently living in, but that doesn't mean we can't make it better.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. Folks should go check it out. And as someone who I cannot claim to be a day one listener, but I was within the first 6 months I started listening to the show.
You were, yeah.
And I can say the best, of the 10 best episodes, like 7 or 8 of them have all come out within like the last 6 months. Like they're like, the show is getting progressively better, and they're getting better at it, which is, not a thing that podcasts have been running for a few years usually do. Very often stagnate. It's just what happens. So I also wanted to say that just as a shout out that really enjoy the show, and it is good stuff. And also, if you like AJ's collaborations with us, AJ has been on this podcast to talk about Cursed Child, and to talk about, let me see if I can get it,
Yes.
the Intelligent Homosexuals Guide to Capitalism and Socialism with a Key to Scriptures by Tony Kushner.
Oh, that's actually my activation phrase. I have to go.
Yeah.
I have to go
Rising
to
up.
the theater.
Must kill Tony Stark's
So
father.
we've done that,
Oh.
and so it's been fun and it's good. And I'll also say, as we approach the end here, folks, we have a really, really cool announcement for next week's show. So definitely tune into that. There's going to be some cool stuff. I feel like if I say anything about it, it's just going to be obvious what it is. So I'm not going to do that.
Y'all
But,
are pivoting to exclusively cover Ben Shapiro content from here on
That's
out.
true.
Mhm.
Every book from here on out will be chosen by the listeners. That's not true. Y'all never get to choose a book ever again. You get to-
Welcome to not just the Shapiro shelf, but Shiloh's Shapiro shelf. We will be getting exclusively my cat's commentary on Ben Shapiro's works.
More intelligent, I will say, by far.
Yeah.
Um,
And so cuddly.
mhm.
You know who's not cuddly? Ben
No.
Shapiro.
Mm-mm.
Well, we don't know.
That wing, it just flies you out of bed.
It's crazy. That's oh Lord. I want to say at the end, by the way, folks, we do actually appreciate when you pitch us books, and we'll try to get to all of them eventually. Genuinely, we do love when we get those emails, and also we do have fun making these episodes. It's why we do what we do. So a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, as insane as some of this shit drives me, as you know, y'all have heard, I live for those moments. You know, I live for getting all worked up about the incredible nonsense that some people go through life believing. But the other half of it is that, you know, I keep coming back to, as insane as all this is, and as formidable a force that this nonsense is in service of, you know, it can also be defeated, in no small part because it is so nakedly goofy and fake. And you know, we live in a society where it is already generally unpopular to be a fascist, and that hasn't kept them out of political power. It hasn't kept them from writing fucking books like this and building media empires like the fucking Daily Wire or whatever. And I think that as much damage as they're doing right now as they will do in the future, we are already seeing so much grassroots resistance to them that is only building and building and building. And that will result in a society where, you know, it is illegal to be these people. And I look forward to that every day of my life.
The last thing I have to say, Ben thinks he's a lion, but he's actually just lying. Thank you, everybody.
Oh my god. Owned.
Ask them their philosophy, and they may spare a few... Fuck!
You don't have to hold it. It's impossible.
No, we're doing this.
We're committing to the bit, damn it.
But they know deep in their hearts what it is they... Fuck! Okay.
It's really hard to
one
do.
take
because
also. One take also.
Thank you for listening to Socialist Shelf Radio.